There's been some talk about having a meeting with the MPCA and the CEQC and the EQB and the city council and the staff to talk about air quality monitoring. And that meeting, which was set for September 16th at 5 o'clock, it needs to be rescheduled. The people from the MPCA, only one of three could make it, and the other two people are important to the conversation. So we are going to reschedule that. It's not certain, but it's likely that that meeting will be rescheduled to October 7th at 5 o'clock. Watch the media and the city's webpage for further announcements about that. And that's the only thing I had, other than we just completed a 45-minute discussion about the Masonic Temple with the architects from Miller Dunwoody, and they left us with a about 300-page report that we need to digest, and we will. So with that, I'll ask the city manager if she has anything.
No comments.
Okay, and then roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Councilman Thurley.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Alexander. Here. Iden. Here. Borzakowski.
Here.
Double. Here. Under the petitions, requests, and communications, item 3.1 is reappointments to the Human Rights Commission of Linda Bedka, Jacob Griffin, Nicholas Guy, and Frederick Lee.
I'd move to approve those appointments. I would second that.
Motion by Michelle and seconded by Pam. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.2 is an update on the Main Street program from Councilwoman Alexander.
I have a few things to discuss. I see David Bittner is here, so if you have specific questions, you can ask him. The Progressive Dinner is coming up again, October 17th. We'll be getting a sneak peek at Fastenal, having hors d'oeuvres at Merchants, heading into the basement at Booze for a beer-themed dinner, and then finishing up here at City Hall for dessert. There are limited tickets. RSVPs are accepted. I would suggest you call soon to get your ticket. It's $40 a person. Also, the Progressive Dinner is a state award-winning event. They will be honored this year, September 25th, up at the Union Station for a Preservation Alliance Award. In preserving downtown history, getting people into historic buildings, and so they did win an award for that. Sweet Stroll had over 1,000 people and 40 businesses participating this year, which is an increase over the previous year. It was a very successful event, and the weather was much nicer. And then Scott Day was here recently, a consultant that Main Street Program hired and brought in to look at our fire project. I did give each of you a copy of his report that gave some ideas of how the lots could be used, some renderings that he came up with to make it look like it's a historic property, and just some ideas he had for use of that land. So you can take a look at that at your choice, and then if you have questions, David can answer them. He spent the few days with Scott while he was here. And then we are doing a foot traffic study. I hear a lot that there's nobody downtown, and I did a study on a Thursday afternoon from 11 to 1, and over 400 people walked or biked past my location on Center and 3rd, and I know that we had someone do a Saturday study down by the farmers market, and we had almost 800 people there in a 2-hour period. So there are people downtown, and that study will go on for the next year. We'll do it seasonally and track some foot traffic. We're looking at direction they go in and kind of where they're going when they're downtown. And I think that is all I have on Main Street.
Thank you, and congratulations to the Main Street program for their award. Anybody have any questions for Michelle or David? Okay, well, thank you.
Item 3.3 is a request by Paperback and Pieces to close 9th Street for a book sale on Saturday, October 4th.
Move to approve that request.
Second.
Motion by George, seconded by Michelle. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes.
Item 3.4 is a request by Corner Auctions to close a portion of Hilbert Street for an auction on Saturday, September 20th.
I'd move to approve that request.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Jerry. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.5 is a request by Compass Church to close a portion of Main Street and a municipal parking lot adjacent to that on Friday, October 31st from 1 to 7 for their Trunk and Treat event.
I move to approve that request.
Motion by Michelle,
Second.
seconded by George. Any discussion? Al?
Yeah, I have an issue. I mean, we've dealt with some of these smaller street closures for a half a block or a block for an auction, but this is a fairly large one, in my opinion. And with the municipal parking lot closed off and that block north of Second on Main, I'd like to see us postpone this until we can, unless there are people that here can answer the question, A, address the access to businesses on that part of Main Street, which is primarily HBC because of the service trucks that go in and out there. They want to close it off beginning at 1 o'clock, and to me, that would impact that business. I haven't talked to them, but I think it would. And I think that, you know, in the past, when we've done things like this, I use the Strawberry Fest in Sinclair Park as an example. I think we've asked them to have some kind of liability in place to protect the city for issues that might or might not, hopefully not occur, but might occur during such an event. So I would vote against this for those reasons.
Okay, Michelle?
I guess I understand what you're saying about HBC, and maybe they do need a phone call or confirmation that they're okay with it. But this is the same location where we have farmers market. And so for me, the blocking portion of it doesn't seem to be such an issue. But again, I do understand about HBC because it is during business hours and their access would be limited. But I've been to this trunk or treat with kids before. It's just cars with people dressed up handing out
Yeah.
candy, and I think it's a nice event.
Well,
And
I'm not-
I guess I like that they want to bring it downtown. So I'm in favor of it, although I will agree with you on the one comment that perhaps we should ask them to go back and get confirmation from HBC that they're okay with losing front access to their business.
Doesn't HBC have access off the alley from their lot as well?
They do indeed,
Okay.
but they have a business that fronts on Main Street,
Right, the information
the Wizards.
wizards, yeah.
So maybe it wouldn't be an issue for them. I don't think they've ever complained about farmers market on Wednesdays or Saturdays.
Well,
But
that usually occurs later. Saturdays usually is not a busy time, but I just, I don't think without those liability issues in place, I don't think we should grant this.
Monica, do you want to address the liability?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, what I was going to address was the request to have it blocked at 1 PM was primarily to set up the activities in the parking lot. The actual trick-or-treating portion doesn't start until 4, so it could be possible to delay closing the street so that you could still access HBC. It was mainly that parking lot that they wanted to set up.
Okay.
And then, you know, so I think they would be open to having access to HBC open until probably, you know, 3 or 3:30, just so there's enough time for the cars to drive in.
That's a safety issue too. I mean, if there are service trucks going in and out, and admittedly, they could use the alley, but typically they'll use the Main Street area to access their calls. But, yeah, I think that would be a good idea to include that as a caveat for granting this. But as I say, I still think that for larger events like this, we should have a policy that addresses liability issues. And I would ask staff to investigate that and to give us a report.
Other questions or comments? If there aren't any, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries, 6-1.
Item 3.6 is the request for a temporary on-sale wine and malt liquor license for the Polish Cultural Institute for their event on Sunday, October 5th.
I
Move-
move-
Move to approve that request, and I cannot recite that Polish
I've
saying.
stopped asking you, George. I've stopped asking. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by George, seconded by Michelle. Any discussion?
It's a great
Yeah.
event.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Item 3.7 was distributed earlier. It's a request to close Harriet Street for a block party tomorrow, Wednesday, September 3rd. The event would be from 5 to 7 p.m.
I move to approve that request. Second that.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Pam. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes.
Under new business, item 5.1, the 2015 proposed budgets and tax levy.
We have a motion by Paul,
I'll second it.
seconded by Al. I know there's somebody from the Hockey Association here, and I think they wanted to take a moment and just say something to the council. Is that correct?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Sloggy. I'm the president of the Winona Area Youth Hockey Association. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and really we're appreciative of great working relationship that we've enjoyed with the city for nearly 30 years, managing the city-owned Bud King Ice Arena. The issue, as most everyone in the room I believe knows, is that the refrigeration system that was installed originally in 1988 had a 15 to 20 year life expectancy, and as of today it's still working due to maintenance and probably a bit of luck, but we're past the point of needing replacement, and that issue was complicated by the fact that the refrigeration system uses a chemical as a coolant which is being phased out globally starting next year, which is forcing ice arenas literally all over the world to replace their refrigeration systems sometime between now and 2020. We'd like to commend the city officials and the city council for their prompt recognition of this problem and the courage to take the immediate steps to solve the problem this year in the most, what we feel is the most affordable way possible for the city and the taxpayers. It was clear to us at last week's budget meeting how serious the council members and city staff treat an issue like an increase in the levy, and we'd just like once again to state that we're most appreciative for the consideration. Assuming this stays in the budget, finally we'd be looking forward to extending the services at the Bud King Ice Arena to appeal to more Winonans, even non-skaters, with some other improvements that would be part of this plan. And if there was any questions, I could certainly answer those at this time.
I have a question.
Okay.
Someone called me and asked me, they didn't realize that the ice arena was owned by the city, and they wondered when they could come and skate there. Is there a time when the community can come for a free skate or open skate with their children at the ice arena?
Yes, there is. And it's somewhat dependent on the other organizations that rent ice time from us. The easiest way to check is either we post it literally on the door of the arena on kind of a weekly or monthly basis. Also, the association's website is winonahockey.com, and there's a calendar on there where it's simply listed as either open skating or open hockey. The only difference is for hockey you need to wear a helmet, but that's something where there's skate rental available, and there's a minimal charge to be out there because we have to staff the building, but there's quite a bit over the next couple months before the hockey season kicks in, and then during the season it's typically either Saturdays or Sundays, but yeah, that's the same groomed ice surface that all the associations that use the arena skate on, so it's a nice opportunity to skate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Paul?
I would strongly recommend too that we, in cooperation with you, have some type of a link in our park rec on our website to the Bud King Arena, and also we put some signage down there to let people know that it is the city of Winona's. Because on that two city block area down there, I could not find one sign that said it was city of Winona, even though we have a boat landing, 2 parking lots.
Yeah, we'd be happy to have our website person work with whomever the contact is at the city to link those together or send our calendar information over.
That's a good point. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mike. Or Al, you had something?
I didn't have a question, Mike, but I just wanted to point out the item that was in our packet that addresses the impact of doing this and as it relates to valuations of housing ranges throughout the city, and basically that chart shows that this process, at least for next year, is a little more than $1 a month for most city taxpayers in residential areas. So, I mean, I think, yes, it's a big hit in terms of huge dollar amounts, but in terms of monthly costs, it's a small price to pay for the improvements that we are going to realize for many years to come.
And I also want to add to the fact that with the addition of the cement floor in there, it will open the facility up for roughly 4 to 5 months during the summer months for trade shows or any other type of event that cars, whatever, that would be available to the community that we have not had before.
Yeah, that's what I referenced where, as you said, it's a city building. We'd be happy to accommodate any, non-skating activities on that concrete 80 by 200 area during the time there's no ice in there, which is basically April through Labor Day. So that's a great use for a city facility that we're all for publicizing.
George?
And Mike, since the group you represent has been involved with this hockey building, how much money has your organization put towards the upkeep and the work on the building?
I would have to do a little research to take you all the way back to 1988. When we started looking at this, we went back about 10 years and found that on average, we spend approximately $160,000 per year on maintenance of the facility, and that's not inclusive of approximately $450,000 that we spent a few years ago to expand the facility at our own cost to add on locker rooms, a meeting room, and a larger entry area. So over the last 10 years, about $2.2 million.
No, you guys do an excellent job with that, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks again for the opportunity.
Other discussion related to the budget and tax levy? Michelle?
I just have a comment because I missed one of the meetings for the budget. I'm a little uncomfortable with the $100,000 going towards Levy Park when we have not discussed how that improvement will be handled. Some of the comments I'm hearing is that we have a lot of parks, and if that money could just be set aside for any park improvements, including Levy, that would make them more comfortable. And I'm not suggesting that anyone else is going to be supportive of me on that, but I'm just going to say for the record that I think setting the money aside without having a plan in place is premature. And I would prefer the money be placed in a park fund so that it can be used to improve any of our parks. And as it stands, we have people raising money right now to improve Sobieski Park. And I just think there may be other places, especially from some of the emails and pictures I've gotten this year about some of our parks that are in outlying areas that could use improvement. And I'm not even thinking that would be a ton of money, but that's just kind of how I stand on that funding. I'm a little uncomfortable with it, and I've been hearing some negative feedback about it, about the amount without an actual plan in place or an accepted, voted on plan for that funding. So there's my comment on the budget.
Well, I'm going to respond quickly to that. Yeah, I don't have the same discomfort that you do. I think as long as the council has the ability to approve any of those funds and how they're spent, I think it's good to have a placeholder in there. There's been a lot of energy and initiative over the past year and a half to try to do something with our Levy Park, and I guess I'm very happy that there's something in there that we can use to try to move that project forward. Pam, you have something?
I do. I was concerned last week at our budget meeting to see the level of funding for the library, books and materials for both adults and children. It seems that in my opinion, we're not funding the library, books and materials nearly as well as we should, considering that we have more people we have more people in Winona County using the library than a whole list of other libraries here. And our willingness to fund that has slid over the years, as I understand it. And now we are counting on the Memorial Fund, which is a volunteer donated fund for the library. We're kind of relying on that too heavily to be sustainable. And I'd like to see in next year's budget, not this one, I'd like to see us bring those funding levels back up.
George?
Mary, for the public's information, is the county, what are they funding for? I know they have a level of maintenance of effort, as they call it, but are they funding what they're supposed to be funding?
Mayor and council, yes, the Winona County contributes to the library fund per the maintenance of effort, which is a state amount, a state formula, state of Minnesota formula, and we are paid quarterly for that. It's something like about $196,000, something like that. But they are paying, they do pay whatever the maintenance of effort is. My understanding, I haven't looked at the formula recently, but that's what it was when I looked a few years ago. And I don't think it's changed.
And then one other question, as we set this budget tonight, we cannot increase it, but we can decrease it, correct?
For the tax levy, you cannot increase the property tax levy, you could only decrease it. The budget will be coming back December 15th, and that's when we'll have a public comment section as well. But that's when it will come back, and that's when normally you would adopt the budget and the tax levy, and then that would be the tax levy, that would be the final certification to Winona County for 2015.
Thank you.
Paul?
Do we receive, or can we receive, any community education funding for the library? Since that's a separate fund from K-12. And I just wondered if there was any provisions in the state statutes that enable community education funds to be used to help support the library.
Mayor and council, I don't believe Fund 4 can be used for direct library services. It's something that we could certainly look into, but I think Fund 4, you're right, separate from the regular school district budget. Could they provide some ancillary programming for us or other services? That's something we could certainly explore, but direct dollars to the library, I do not believe they can. But it's something we can look at and get back to you.
Other questions or comments? If there aren't any, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.2 is the 2015 budget and levy. Announce the date for the public comment portion of the regularly scheduled council meeting, and this would be held on Monday, December 15th at 6:30 p.m. here at the City Council chambers.
Move to set the time and place as listed.
Second.
Motion by Al, seconded by Michelle. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.3 is the proposed fee ordinance for 2015, and this includes all of Chapter 51. And I did distribute to the council earlier today an updated section on the recreation fees. And those that are highlighted in yellow were the additions to what was in the original packet. So again, everything in red on this page is a change from 2014, including those highlighted in yellow.
I guess I'd move to introduce the proposed fee ordinance.
Motion by Michelle. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by George. Discussion? There was one I'm trying to find. Oh, who does, Al? Okay.
Al, I would
Go ahead,
defer
Al.
to Councilperson
I
Iden.
just have a question.
Okay.
I have a question.
No.
And I'm under recreation fees on both the new and the older sheet. What does it mean when the fee is one thing and then for an employee, it's a different number? Employee of what?
City
Okay.
employee, I would guess.
Mayor and council, that refers to a city employee. I believe 2 years ago, 2013, We introduced an employee fee as part of the City of Winona Employee Wellness Program. And so we were encouraging employees to get memberships to the pool, to attend our programs, for example, get their children, grandchildren enrolled in swimming lessons, participate in our programs, and so we offered city employees a discounted rate.
Do you have another question?
Okay, but I see that some of them are higher than the regular fee. So most of them are lower, but for example, under field, employees would pay $67, where the regular fee is $60, unless that's changed over here.
If you, again, Mayor and Council, if you look to the right as the columns go across, the highlighted yellow fee
Oh, okay.
is the new proposed fee, and that corrects that error.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for the explanation also.
Al?
Got a question on some of the engineering fees here. There's one under concrete permits, sidewalk, driveway approach, curb and gutter, a delay penalty that is a current fee of $20, and you're proposing a fee of $300. I was wondering what that meant in terms of impact and the rationale behind it.
Sure. Mayor and Council, we have an extensive program of reviewing the city's sidewalk to comply with the handicap accessibility. And in doing that, we end up with a lot of property owners that have to have it replaced. They can either hire a contractor or they can do it themselves. Anybody who does that work is required to get a $10 permit so that we can see that it's been done and it's been done properly. We're getting a whole lot of people that are not doing anything out there. And if we catch them, then we bring them back in and it's $20 permit. It gets to be a problem for the contractor that we hire. It gets to be a problem for our people. We're not aware if the projects are getting done or not. We need something that will get their attention, that they need to get the $10 permit up front, and then so we can keep track of things much better. The $300, if they don't do that and we catch them, this would allow us to have a $300 permit fee.
And that would be made clear at the time the $10 permit fee was issued?
It would be made clear at the time of when they're notified they have to do some construction work.
Okay. And then I have another question under copies provided by the city engineer's office for plans and specifications for city projects. And it's going from $25 to $50. Does that reflect more of an actual cost as opposed to the previous?
More of an actual cost, more of a consistent cost with other contracts, other projects.
Okay. And then while you're here, I note that there's a series of fees for folks who wish to connect to the city's water system through a hydrant method. And there's a refundable deposit. There's a service call and connection fee of $30. It's been my experience that if this is a fee that relates to a city employee and a city vehicle going out to actually install this, and it takes an hour to do that, it really doesn't reflect the current cost. Just to give you an example, I had opportunity to call a locksmith to come to my house and repair a lock. And the charge for just appearing there, minus any labor and parts, was $40. So I think that I'd suggest perhaps in some of these costs that we have here that we're kind of falling behind the actual recovery of costs in these services, and that perhaps, and not so much for this year, but we look at seriously regulating those for future years to more reflect the current costs. I mean, there's some costs here for fire hose repair and things that, just look on the surface to be really, really a good bargain. Not that we have a lot of call to repair fire hoses, mind you, but it just seems to be not reflective of the actual environment that's out there right now.
We will look at that for the following year. Generally, we don't collect the full cost because we want them to involve us. We don't want them pulling the meter out on their own or doing
Yeah.
things like that. So it'll be less than the full cost, but those are probably behind. We can address that the following year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
One thing I would ask that maybe when the ICE Association develops their fee schedule for this year, that it be posted as well for just point of information for people, residents in Winona who might want to utilize the facility, so we have it in our Park Rec department.
Jerry?
We've talked about this off and on over the years, so I'd like to propose a friendly amendment to do away with any discount for city employees. That's the motion. Okay.
All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Just a point of order,
Is there a motion?
there was a motion, so if that's a friendly amendment,
With no second, it just goes.
there's no second on it?
No.
Okay.
Okay. We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
And moving on to item 5.4, to set a public hearing regarding liquor license fee increases. That hearing would be held on Monday, October 6th. And by state law, any changes in liquor license fees require a 30-day notice and a public hearing.
Move to approve the hearing date for October 6th.
Second.
Motion by George, seconded by Michelle. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes.
Item 5.5 is the Camelot Drive dedication request.
I see some people in the audience. If somebody would like to stand at the podium, state your name and address, and address the council.
I'm Dave Sebo, and I'm 419 East Lake Boulevard. And thank you, Mr. Mayor and council, for letting me come and present our problem. We have a street on which we have 5 residents, taxpayers, also they're on city water, city sewer. And what we're trying to do is get the city to just maintain or patch our street like you would an alley or anything else. We don't want you to plow it. We don't want you to repave it or anything. We would just like to have the potholes and some of that stuff repaired. And I'm here on behalf of the 5 residents in Camelot. And I would just like to hear a response if you would do it for us, or if we're just spinning our wheels.
All right, do we have any questions for Mr. Sebo? Al?
So there's 5 residents here, and it's a private driveway?
Yes. And I don't know why. I've lived there for 8 years probably, or 10 years. And I don't know why it was ever private, but I guess the lady who developed it made it private and never donated it back to the city, or give the city an easement or anything like that.
How was it constructed to begin with?
It was blacktop.
But it was a prepared surface, or it was just an overlay of
That I
blacktop
can't
over
answer.
a plowed gravel
I'm not
road?
knowledgeable about that, but all I know is it is blacktop, and we have some potholes, and I think I emailed everybody, and ask you all if you'd drive up it and just take a look at it.
Yeah, I've driven by, I've seen the potholes, I know what you're.
I'd say you have more than some potholes.
Yeah.
Well,
I drove up there the other day.
you're correct, and you know, theoretically, I've been taking care of it ever since I've been there, and I've been going up to Matthew's Quarry and getting recycle and patching them, and it just, we need some hot mix in those holes so it'll stay there. Otherwise, it is washing out after probably a year or two. And I'm sure your street sweeper is sick of having gravel and dirt and everything out in the street when he goes by. And I feel that hot mix, and the city has access to some hot mix just to fill those holes, and that would resolve our problem.
Have you tried contacting Matthew or Dunn Blacktop to do that very same thing
I
on your own?
contacted the gentleman out of Rochester, and he gave us a bid to resurface it all for $12,500. The neighbor up the street, he got Dunn, and Dunn quoted him $25,000 to resurface it. I feel that probably it would be less than $5,000, way less than $5,000 just to fill the holes. And I feel that would be adequate.
Michelle?
Mr. Stevo, I got to speak with you a little bit the other day. What I'm wondering is, does the association of homeowners over there, the group of you, have a fund set aside to repair the road? You know, like when you have a shared well, there's an agreement between the homeowners how that's gonna be maintained and taken care of as a private drive. Do you guys have something? Is there a fund set aside?
No, we do not.
That's a problem.
And when I got the bid for 12.5, one of our neighbors, he was laid off, and we had a new one moving in, and we just couldn't get together on it for the 12.5. I believe, and I don't remember his name, but he did he does golf course paths, and he does a lot of small jobs out of Rochester.
George?
When was, if any of us know, when was that Camelot developed? And are there any original owners from when it was first developed still there?
No. The lady who developed it has passed away.
Is that Francis
I want to
Dickerson?
say probably in somewhere around 2000.
Was that Francis Dickerson that developed that?
Yes.
I knew Francis.
And I moved there in 2005. And the others have been there prior to me moving there. But I would just, if we can get some help from the city, being we're taxpayers and we're on city water, city sewer, and there's 5 of us, it's not like, you know, we're just 1 or 2 who wanting a driveway put in.
Pam?
I did a little bit of research on this today. I was up there myself, but I did a little bit of research and found out that in the beginning, when the planning commission and then the city council allowed this to go on this way, that there was a firm agreement that the attorneys for this little Dickerson Camelot were firmly committed to maintaining that drive. Otherwise, it would not have been approved at that time. And also in the document was that the owners would share the cost for the maintenance of that road. So when was the last time that anyone actually maintained the whole driveway, besides you say you kind of plugged some holes?
I don't have any knowledge of that. I've been working at it and going up and buying recycle up at Matthew's Quarry and bringing it down to my truck and doing it myself. And it's just getting to the point that it washes out. We need some actual blacktop, hot tar to put in there.
Do you have a kind of homeowners association with that small subdivision?
No, we do not.
There's no legal framework for all of you to work together?
To my knowledge, no.
Was that included as a codicil in the development? And your research show that?
I was told that yes, it was.
Okay.
I didn't actually see the document myself. That's why.
Michelle?
My guess is somewhere in that abstract, it talks about how you're supposed to handle the shared or private driveway, and it's been overlooked as it's been sold. Because in my real estate experience, whenever you have shared anything, right there in that document should be written down somewhere how you're gonna deal with the cost of maintaining a shared well, or a shared septic system, or a shared driveway. And in this instance, it sounds like you've taken on the burden of that, but I would suggest that you get together with those homeowners and start putting money into a fund that's gonna perpetually maintain that. Because that's the trouble you're gonna run into with selling, is the same issue is gonna go on. And I think if you can go back to your attorney, he can write that up for you.
Didn't notice it when I purchased the house that I have. And however, 3 weeks ago, I went down Mr. Bamanek and I got all the information and all that, and I did see what you're talking about. And we're just hoping to get some help from the city on patching this.
Paul?
Oh, I live in an area where we have a common well, and we have provisions in that where we meet annually. We assess ourselves for that. And one of the concerns that we have when we got city sewer and water available in the area was that at some point in time, we're gonna need to cement the well shut. And so we needed to establish a perpetual fund so that when there's no more water in the well, the whole shaft has got to be filled with concrete. And so, you know, I would strongly suggest that you talk to your neighbors. As Pam said in the research, I would have been very surprised if the planning commission or the council at that time would have approved this subdivision without those types of contingencies built into it, because it would have been very poor judgment on their part to do so.
Well, I guess my question would be, being we have city water, city sewer, the easements were given for those. I don't understand why the city didn't get an easement to maintain the road, or even just to patch it. You know, we're not asking to plow it or anything, but it's kind of mind-boggling to me, and I guess maybe I have to go talk to an attorney and find out what the legal aspect would be of it.
Michelle?
There are private drives in Winona, besides yours, where subdivisions have been set up where they're not quite conforming to city requirements for width of road or the construction of the road, which is what happened at Camelot. And I guess what I would ask, because it sounds like what your real trouble is you want to give us the alley because you want someone to help you cover the cost, because you really shouldn't have to cover it for all your neighbors. I get that. What I'm wondering is, how much does it cost to do the hot mix if the city does it? If all we did was the hot mix and you assessed it to each homeowner, and then they're responsible for just their portion, but the road gets repaired, we don't own it. Is there a way to do that? Or is there an idea of what it costs to fill, just so there's an idea? We know what we're talking about here?
I do not have a number for what it would cost to do that. I mean, again, we are on private property for doing that. My concern is if we did patch it with, like he's talking about, that's a Band-Aid.
Right.
It's not gonna hold.
That's what I want to hear. Thank you.
Paul?
Question I would ask the attorney, can we do work on non-public property with public funds?
Mayor and council, it would be very unique to do that. And I'd have to look into doing it, but the proper way to go about it would be to do a legal framework, like a dedication or an easement, to take the property and then assess the cost back onto the homeowners, the contiguous homeowners. That would be the way I'd have to advise that you go about that. And the motion is stated correctly that you would advise city staff to prepare the necessary legal documents. If the question is, can you do work with the consent of the homeowners who are the owners of that private driveway. Now, I don't know that, as Michelle, Councilor Alexander pointed out, we'd have to do a title search to see that, but probably they own the property, so if they gave you consent to spend public dollars on, to fix it, is that basically what you're saying, without taking ownership, any sort of ownership?
Well, if we don't have it as a dedicated piece of property,
Right.
can we spend public funds on private land? For the
Okay.
improvement of that private land if it's not dedicated to the city?
I don't know the answer. I didn't look into that, but probably not.
You know, somebody said, I don't know if it was Keith, that, you know, putting a hot mix up there, it would just be a Band-Aid approach. And after driving up there, I would agree that that isn't really going to accomplish much at all. It might be, I mean, it's very temporary just to patch some of those very large potholes. And I think it might be a waste of everybody's money to
I
just
guess
put that
then,
little bit of
what I'd
mix
like to
in.
know is what do we have to do to get the city to help us out? We know that some of the alleys that you do, some of them were private, but they give you the easement, so the city will pave them or will put in a drain system or whatever, you know, and we're wanting to know what we have to do to get your help, because it's quite a problem.
Well, I think you have to convince the council that we should do it. Simple as that. George?
Well, tonight, what they're asking for is for a dedication of the easements, correct?
Mayor and council, that's the way it's stated in the packet. Now, really what it does is directs city staff to prepare the appropriate easements, and we'd have to go look at that to determine whether or not a dedication is the right thing to do, and prepare whatever documents are necessary. This one's a little bit different than a normal dedication because it's not in fact an alley. It's a street. As I understand it, it's a public street, or it's a private street, but it's not a behind-the-house alley. And that might raise some concerns. We would have to look at how to do that. The bottom line is, if you make the motion as it's stated in the packet, it would be just to direct city staff to prepare the legal documents. It wouldn't necessarily dedicate the alley or the roadway. Similar to the alley that was done a few weeks ago, the dedication of that alley would require the consent of the homeowners that abut the alley. After all, they own it. You know, we can't just dedicate something because we say we want to. It's not eminent domain. This is something different. So the motion tonight is just to prepare the necessary legal documents, and we would have to look at how to do that. And that's not spelled out in the packet. Now, if you wanted to table it and to have us look into how it would go, how that would look, to have a better idea before you vote on it, we could do that too. But I can't give you an exact answer as to how the legal framework is going to look tonight.
So if we were to table this, you would then come back with those documents and agreements?
If we were directed by city staff to do so, we could look into it.
Jerry?
Just a guesstimate, how much time may that take? I mean, not in the future, but how many man-hours would that take on your staff's part?
Correct. That could be a significant time investment.
Okay.
And if you're not likely to grant it anyway, you know, that's something to consider, yes.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
Paul?
Well, my thought is that if the original legal documents, in effect, ask the neighbors to share in the cost of maintenance and upkeep, and if we went through all this process, what we would require is basically to bill the neighbors to do the same thing. It would seem pretty logically to me that to get together with the neighbors and tell them it's in either way, you're gonna get to pay for it. And so why spend the extra legal dollars to go through the process when in fact it's gonna be billed back to the property owners anyway?
Pam?
My question had to do with just the configuration of the road or the alley. It's very narrow and it's quite steep, and there's no turnaround up at the top. Does the city ever accept such a narrow track as a real public street? I mean, do we want to take responsibility for that kind of a street, or is that an engineering question? Unless the person at the top of the hill was willing to sacrifice his house so that you could build a turnaround up there.
Sure is.
And you could add to it that there's some curves involved, and it's not a straight line, but there are, first of all, the short answer is no. There is a way of doing it without a full turnaround. You can do a thing called a hammerhead, you can do a T intersection or something like that, but it still takes some place to turn the vehicles around at the end without going into somebody's driveway. I don't know if there's room for this to do that.
Can a fire truck get up there and turn around and get
Not
back
turn
down?
around.
They have to back the fire truck down.
They've been up there. They've been up there and turned around.
I wouldn't want to be driving a fire truck and backing down that hill.
Yeah.
Okay, George?
But the request tonight is not for a city street. We're talking more language of an alley. So no discussion with city street, and they're just an alleyway, so.
Any further questions of Mr. Sebo? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion anywhere from the council?
Well, I guess we've had discussion here tonight on and where it's all gonna go. We don't know if, they're asking for assistance, of course, to, repair the road. I don't think they're asking for a lot. I understand, yes, it's a private road. I understand that. We do have different scenarios and things. But I would motion tonight to, direct staff to prepare appropriate easements and agreements for this project.
Okay, there's a motion by George. Is there a second? Hearing none, motion fails for lack of a second.
And moving on to item 7.1, council concerns.
We'll start with Alvin.
Okay, well, happy September. It's like almost a switch has been thrown in our community in terms of activity and traffic, and I encourage folks to drive with extreme care and caution, especially in the vicinity of our universities and schools. And I would encourage especially the new cyclists in town to obey stop signs, and hopefully we'll keep everybody safe. There was an accident involving a vehicle and a motorcycle at Broadway in Maine earlier tonight. I hope people involved were not injured seriously. And over the Labor Day holiday, I was a little unhappy that, and I think many people were very inconvenienced by the facts that the signal lights at the intersection of Huff Street and Highway 61 were out for the entire weekend, as well as into this morning. Apparently they've been repaired now. I understand also the lights at not Huff, but Gilmore and 61 were also out. It was, it was difficult. Thankfully, I hadn't heard of any accidents, but I'm a little concerned when we deal with MnDOT, and MnDOT is going to build us a bridge, that ongoing maintenance, this is not a good example of ongoing maintenance from MnDOT, quite frankly. That's my comment. Thank you.
Jerry?
I'm hearing from a number of people with these channel change, they're still having difficulties locating us, and we know on Monday nights and sometimes Tuesdays, this is the top-rated television show. But I guess I just urge the carrier to try to get the information out a little bit better, or anybody, obviously you're not watching if you can't find it, but if you hear somebody, have them call their carrier, and the carrier will try to walk you through it. But I'm hearing that complaint over and over again, that they're still having difficulty, and I know I got a heck of a fan base. So, no, but it's important stuff that we do, and we appreciate the people that do watch. And yeah, I'm actually surprised at how many people do watch it.
Yes.
And when now they are having difficulty finding it, so something has to be done. But all right, thank you. And that's it.
Michelle?
September 12th, which is Friday, we got approval to close 3rd Street between Center and Lafayette to have kind of a celebration, a grand reopening of Blooming Grounds. Everyone in the community is invited down. There'll be fire trucks, live music. We've got permission to drink wine on the sidewalk. Some of the stores are gonna come out, the 4 fire departments, the Red Cross, city employees are gonna come down, and we're gonna have kind of a celebration and a look back at that year since the building is finally restored. They'll have some graphs and pictures of Scott Day's ideas for that area. I think we have pictures from the Post and the Daily News of the fire that'll be on display. So anyone that would like to come down, it should be fun. I think we're gonna have good weather. So that's all I have for
What
today.
are the hours?
4 to 8.
Okay. Paul?
Just to acknowledge condolences for the family of Pete Rail, who passed away in the last couple weeks.
Pam?
Yes, I would like an update, please, on how is the traffic study coming along? I believe the last time we talked about it, bids were going to go out for someone to complete the traffic study. Where are we in that process, please?
George?
Okay, train crossings again. Louisa Street, Mankato, Hamilton, and West Fifth Street, which took place yesterday. So the guy sent me a message, thanks, he said, I'm now waiting on West Fifth Street, and the train is not moving. So the problem exists more than just in the east part of town, but you know, we need to somehow work on getting a handle on keeping these intersections open. Also, there's been many residents I'd like to thank that, you know, they understand that there's a shortage of staff people. They are mowing state of Minnesota right away on their own. They're mowing city property on their own. They're not complaining about it. They're doing it. It looks good, and they're just willing to help out. So thank you to all you people, and you know who you are. Also, it is the political season. Started back in July. You'll be carrying on more now as we approach middle of September into October. And our town, like every other town, is filled with political signs. People graciously let candidates, and I'm speaking for all the candidates tonight, plus myself, people allow us to place campaign signs in their yards to show their support for us. And then we have vandals come along and they steal the sign, they break the sign, whatever they do, they run their car over the sign, whatever it may be. I got a good deal for you tonight. If anyone out there wants a campaign sign from any candidate or myself, we'll deliver it for you, we will place it in your yard, and we will even autograph it for you. And it's something that you can keep from here on in. I just ask, you know, please, the signs are very expensive. There's a lot of volunteers that go out and work for these candidates placing these signs. Please respect them, just simply, you know, if you can, leave them alone. If you do steal a sign, of course it is theft if we wish to press the charges. It's also defamation of political advertising or campaign material, and also trespassing going in someone's yard. So I just ask, please, you know, leave all political signs alone. It'll be greatly appreciated for all the candidates out there now and for those that will be coming. And now that I'm off of that soapbox, happy birthday to my wife Carol tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Under the consent agenda, there are 3 items. Approval of the minutes from August 18th, the final adoption of an ordinance to establish handicap parking on East Sanborn, and a claim against the city by Randy Peterson.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Al, seconded by Michelle. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourn say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.